You fired her for giving a free haircut to a veteran. And for what? A simple act of kindness that cost her everything? Emma, a kind-hearted hairstylist, never imagined that her desire to help would lead to such consequences. All she wanted was to show some compassion to a man who had given so much, but instead, she found herself at the center of a storm. Just an hour later, the last person she expected walked through the door of the salon. This visit would change her life forever in ways she could never have foreseen. Hello, and welcome to True Unveiled Narratives. Today, we're sharing a story of kindness, sacrifice, and unexpected twists. Stay till the end, and if this story moves you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Let's begin. Emma had always loved beauty, specifically the way a simple haircut could transform someone. It wasn't about the status or the prestige of her work. For her, it was always about the joy she brought to people, the way a good haircut could bring out their confidence and make them feel like the best version of themselves. At 27, Emma worked at a modest salon in a small town. It wasn't the high-end, trendy type of salon you might find in big cities. It was the kind of place where people came in for a quick trim, a fresh look, or just to chat with their neighbors. And Emma loved it. She wasn't in it for fame or fortune. She loved the rhythm of the job, the simple interactions, and the chance to make people feel good about themselves. But she had bigger dreams. She dreamed of opening her own salon one day, a place where people could feel welcome no matter their background. But for now, she was content working at Rebecca's salon, quietly saving and planning for the future. It was on one rainy afternoon that everything changed. The bell above the door chimed as a man walked in, and Emma immediately noticed him. John, an elderly man, walked slowly across the room, his military jacket worn and faded. He looked like someone who had lived through difficult times. His eyes were tired, distant, like someone who had seen and experienced things most of us couldn't imagine. He wasn't asking for much. He wasn't demanding special treatment. All he wanted was a haircut. But as Emma looked at him, something inside her stirred. She could see the years of struggle in his face. She could feel the weight of his past in the way he carried himself. And in that moment, she made a choice. She offered him a free haircut. It wasn't about the money. It was about doing something kind for someone who had given so much for the country. Emma didn't think twice. It wasn't a grand gesture, just a small act of kindness. But it was enough to make John's eyes light up with appreciation. For the first time in a long while, someone had treated him with the dignity he deserved. But what Emma didn't realize was that this simple decision would cost her more than she could have ever imagined. When Rebecca, the salon's owner, found out, she was furious. Rebecca was all about rules, about keeping things professional, about making sure the business stayed profitable. She didn't care about the reasons behind Emma's actions. "You can't just give out free services," Rebecca snapped. "We don't do charity here. This is a business." Emma tried to explain. She tried to tell Rebecca about the veteran, about his struggles, about the kindness that had guided her decision. But Rebecca wasn't interested in hearing it. "I'm sorry, Emma, but this is unacceptable. You're fired." Emma stood there, stunned, trying to process what was happening. She had worked hard for this job. She had built relationships with the customers, earned their trust, and been a reliable part of the team. And now, just like that, it was all over. She packed her things slowly, the weight of it all sinking in. Was helping someone really a mistake? Was compassion really something worth losing everything for? Emma had always been the kind of person who avoided confrontation, someone who followed the rules and kept the peace. But in that moment, her heart had led her to act against what she knew would be popular, and now she was paying the price. It didn't seem fair, but deep down, Emma knew she had done the right thing. The small town where Emma lived was quiet, almost too quiet. Life there moved slowly. People worked hard, went to church on Sundays, and rarely did anything that could stir the pot. It was a place where routine reigned, where nothing ever seemed to change. And yet, in that small, ordinary town, Emma had made a decision that would set off a chain of events no one could predict. As Emma walked out of the salon, trying to process everything, she didn't realize that her story was far from over. In just a little while, she would be faced with a choice that would change everything, one that no one saw coming. Emma left the salon with a heavy heart. The air felt colder than usual, and the steady rhythm of her footsteps echoed as she walked away from the only place she had ever worked. The words, "You're fired," kept replaying in her mind, haunting her as she made her way down the street. For a moment, she considered calling her mother to talk it through. But she knew what her mother would say. "It's just a job, Emma. Don't let it define you." That wasn't what Emma wanted to hear, though. She wasn't just upset about losing the job. She was upset because the decision she'd made, the one that had felt so right in her heart, had led to consequences she never saw coming. She had wanted to make a difference in someone's life, and instead, she had ended up with nothing but an empty space at the salon and a guilty conscience. But as she walked past the corner of the street, a thought struck her. Was that truly the end of her story? The hours that followed were a blur of confusion and frustration. She didn't have a backup plan. She hadn't anticipated this. Emma had always been careful, always stuck to the rules. But now, she was left with nothing but the aching feeling that maybe she had misjudged everything. At home, her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "I heard what happened at the salon. I think what you did was incredible. I'm the mayor of this town, and I'd like to talk to you. Please come by my office." Emma stared at the message for a long moment. Her heart skipped a beat. The mayor? Why would he be reaching out to her? She had never even met him. And what did he mean by, "I think what you did was incredible"? Was this a joke? Or perhaps some way to make her feel better about the situation? But something in her gut told her this was no ordinary message. This was the twist, the unexpected development that would change everything. She grabbed her jacket and headed out the door. The mayor's office was located in the heart of town, in a small building that looked a lot like the others surrounding it. Nothing special. As Emma walked through the glass doors, she was met with the sight of an older man standing behind a desk, his face serious but welcoming. "You must be Emma," he said with a smile. "Please, take a seat." Emma did as she was asked, feeling out of place. The mayor, Henry Harris, was a man who seemed to know everyone in town. He was well known, respected, and he had built his reputation on being a man of the people. "You're probably wondering why I asked you to come here," Henry continued. "I've heard a lot about you, about your decision to help that veteran." Emma shifted in her chair, unsure of where this was going. "I didn't think it was a big deal. He needed it, and I wanted to help." Henry leaned forward slightly, his expression softening. "It is a big deal, more than you realize. I've been watching how people in this town treat each other. It's not always kind, not always compassionate. But what you did, it was selfless. It made me realize something important." Emma blinked. "What do you mean?" "I think this town needs more people like you, Emma," Henry said, his voice quiet but firm. "People who act out of kindness, without expecting anything in return. The problem is, not everyone sees it that way." Emma wasn't sure where this was going, but she felt a spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she wasn't as alone as she thought. "Here's the thing," Henry continued. "I want to help you. I want to create something here, something that will allow people like you to make a real difference. You've got the heart, the passion. What you need now is the platform." Emma left the mayor's office that day with a mix of disbelief and curiosity. Was this really happening? Had the mayor really just offered to help her? A part of her wanted to pinch herself to make sure this wasn't a dream, but another part of her wondered if it was some sort of political stunt, something to make it look like he cared when, in reality, nothing would come of it. She tried to shake off her doubts, but as she walked back to her small apartment, her mind raced. What was this new opportunity? Was it a trick? Could she trust him? Over the next few days, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that things weren't adding up. She spent hours brainstorming what the mayor's offer might mean. She considered what Rebecca would say if she knew about the meeting. Would she be jealous? Angry? Would she see it as a betrayal? The tension started to mount, and Emma felt herself becoming more anxious with each passing hour. She had always played it safe, but now, with this new chance in front of her, she realized she was at a crossroads. It wasn't just about her job anymore. It was about standing up for what she believed in, even if it meant going against everything she had known. Then, just when Emma thought she had figured it all out, things took another unexpected turn. A week after meeting with the mayor, Emma received a phone call. It was from Rebecca. "I heard about your meeting with Mayor Harris," Rebecca said coldly. "What exactly is this about, Emma? Are you trying to build your own salon with his help?" Emma hesitated, unsure how to respond. Well, he just offered some advice, and I don't know if I'm ready for anything like that." "You think you can just walk away from here, after everything I've done for you?" Rebecca's voice cracked, the anger rising. "You've got some nerve, Emma. I don't know what Mayor Harris is telling you, but he's using you. You're nothing without this salon. You'll see." The conversation ended abruptly, and Emma was left stunned. Was Rebecca right? Was she being manipulated by the mayor? Was she foolish for trusting him? As the days went on, Emma struggled with the weight of her decisions. Her confidence had started to waver, her doubts creeping in. But one thing became clearer with every passing moment. She couldn't go back. She couldn't undo the choice she had made to stand up for what was right. No matter what happened, she had to keep moving forward. And as the tension continued to rise, Emma knew that she would soon face an even bigger choice, one that would test everything she believed in and change the course of her life forever. Emma had spent days in turmoil, unable to shake the weight of her decision. The tension inside her built with each passing moment. She had started to doubt herself, wondering if trusting the mayor had been a mistake. Her thoughts were a constant battle between hope and fear. Hope that something good would come from the mayor's offer, and fear that she had put everything at risk. It was late afternoon when the storm finally broke. Rebecca had always been a figure of authority in the small town, and now she had made it clear that she wasn't going to let Emma slip away quietly. Word spread quickly, and soon Emma was receiving calls from all directions, each one dripping with disdain. Some customers were on Rebecca's side, questioning Emma's loyalty to the salon. Others were curious, wondering if the rumors about Emma's meeting with the mayor were true. The salon had been a community, and by leaving, Emma had unknowingly shaken its foundation. It was a Saturday morning when Emma finally couldn't ignore the reality any longer. She had already packed up her things, knowing that she couldn't go back. The mayor had promised help, but even he had warned her that things were about to get complicated. She was standing at the edge of something bigger than herself, but every step forward felt like a leap into the unknown. The call came in as she was getting ready to leave her apartment. It was from the mayor. "Emma, I need you here." "Now," Mayor Harris said, his voice tight with urgency. When she arrived at his office, she found Henry looking more serious than ever before. His office, usually so calm and welcoming, now felt charged with a palpable energy. He didn't waste time. "They're here," he said, pointing toward the group of people gathered in the conference room. "Rebecca is here, and she's bringing in some heavy hitters." Emma felt her heart drop. This was it, the final showdown. She knew it would come to this, but that didn't make the reality any less terrifying. Rebecca is insisting that you're trying to steal business from the salon, Henry continued. She's telling people you're setting up a rival business and poisoning the well. But I know that's not true. I know you didn't do this for any personal gain. Then why? Emma struggled to find the words, her voice shaky. Why would she say that? Why would she try to ruin me like this? Because she's afraid, Henry said, his tone calm. She sees you as a threat, and the people who are with her are only backing her because they've been convinced that you're trying to take away everything she's built. A mix of anger and frustration stirred inside Emma, but it was the realization that Rebecca had manipulated everyone that hurt the most. All she had wanted to do was help. She hadn't wanted to hurt anyone. Emma felt the tears well up in her eyes, but she blinked them back, refusing to let them fall. I didn't mean for this to happen, she whispered. I just wanted to help him. That's all. Henry placed a hand on her shoulder. I know. And now, it's time for us to stand together. This doesn't end here, Emma. You can't let them tear you down. The confrontation happened an hour later in the small, sterile conference room. Rebecca was sitting at the head of the table, flanked by a couple of other prominent figures in the town, people who had always supported her. They looked at Emma with disapproval, their eyes narrow with suspicion. Emma sat across from them, her palms sweating. She had never felt so small, so insignificant. But as she looked at Henry, who stood behind her like a silent guardian, something inside her shifted. She wasn't alone. She didn't have to fight this battle by herself. Emma, I've told you before that I think what you did was extraordinary, Henry began, his voice steady but firm. And I'll say it again. What Rebecca and the others here are accusing you of isn't the truth. You didn't break any rules. You didn't hurt anyone. A murmur rippled through the group, but Rebecca quickly silenced it with a sharp gesture. You can't defend her, Henry. She's out of line. We can't allow this kind of behavior to go unchecked in our town. Emma stood up, cutting through the tension like a knife. Her voice was quiet at first, but as she spoke, it grew stronger. I didn't break any rules, she said. I didn't steal anyone's business. All I did was try to make a difference. You don't understand. You didn't see the man I met. You didn't hear his story. You didn't feel how much he needed someone to just care. The room fell silent. I didn't want to hurt anyone, Emma continued, her voice breaking through the silence. But I won't apologize for caring, for trying to make someone feel seen when the world has ignored him for too long. For the first time, Rebecca looked unsure. She hesitated, glancing around the room as if searching for something to say. But there was nothing. I see what you're doing, Emma, Henry said, stepping forward. And I see it clearly now. You didn't just give a free haircut. You gave that man dignity. And that's something this town needs more of. With those words, the weight lifted. It wasn't immediate. But slowly, Rebecca and the others began to shift in their seats. Their eyes softened just a little. Emma had made her stand, and she wasn't backing down. By the end of the meeting, Rebecca reluctantly agreed to step back. There was no immediate reconciliation, no happy ending. But Emma had won something bigger. She had gained the respect of her community. She had shown that kindness was worth fighting for. As she walked out of the mayor's office, Emma felt an overwhelming sense of release. The tension, the doubt, the fear, it all began to fade. She hadn't just stood up for herself. She had stood up for the people who needed someone to see them. She was no longer the small-town girl afraid of change. She had become a woman with purpose, ready to take the next step forward, whatever it took. The aftermath of the meeting left Emma in a strange limbo. As the days passed, the storm began to settle, but the ripples of her actions still lingered throughout the small town. The salon remained under Rebecca's control, but Emma was no longer a part of it. Some customers who had once been loyal to Rebecca started showing up at Emma's small, new makeshift salon. They brought their business, yes, but they also brought something more: gratitude. They had heard her side of the story, and now they saw Emma in a different light. She wasn't just a hairstylist. She was someone who had stood up for what she believed in. A woman who had cared for another human being without expecting anything in return. But the town's reaction was divided. Many, like Henry, understood her actions and saw them as a form of courage. Others, especially those who had backed Rebecca, couldn't let go of their pride. Some still muttered about Emma's insubordination, questioning her intentions, while others quietly admitted that perhaps they had been wrong about her. Rebecca, on the other hand, found herself struggling to regain her footing. The community's support for Emma was slowly shifting the tide, and even the salon's loyal customers were questioning their loyalty to Rebecca. She had lost her authority, and in trying to preserve it, she had inadvertently weakened her position. But Emma didn't revel in her victory. As much as she had fought for what she believed in, she couldn't ignore the emotional cost. The loss of her job, the strained relationships, and the uncomfortable confrontations had all taken their toll on her. She had done the right thing, but at a price. Her hands still shook at times, not just from the stress, but from the realization that what she had done wasn't as simple as just helping someone. It had forced her to confront her own fears, her own limitations, and her own sense of identity. Yet, amid all of this, there was a sense of peace. The phone calls of support, the customers who came through her door, and the quiet acknowledgement from people she had once thought indifferent, all helped ease the weight on her heart. She had done something good, and it had been noticed. Reflecting on her journey, Emma realized that the woman she was now was not the same as the one who had walked into Rebecca's salon months ago. She had learned that kindness and courage were sometimes the hardest paths to walk. But in the end, it was the only way to live with integrity. The community, too, had learned something from Emma. They saw the importance of standing up for what was right, even when it felt uncomfortable or unpopular. Emma's actions had created ripples that reached far beyond her, teaching those around her that kindness, even in the face of adversity, had the power to change lives. She had sparked a movement, small but significant. In time, the community would remember the lesson she had taught them. Doing the right thing often comes at a cost, but it's always worth it. In the weeks following the confrontation, Emma felt the full weight of what had transpired. The salon where she had worked was no longer a place of comfort. While some loyal customers continued to seek her out, others chose to stay with Rebecca, unwilling to question the status quo. The town, however, began to change, subtle at first, but undeniably shifting in Emma's favor. The very act of standing up for what she believed in had ignited something within the community. As for Rebecca, she continued to hold power in the salon, but her influence had started to wane. The undercurrent of doubt among her customers grew stronger. Some of them began to voice their dissatisfaction with her management, while others simply stopped showing up. It wasn't a sudden collapse, but a slow erosion of trust that Emma had never expected. Yet, she never felt any bitterness toward Rebecca. She knew Rebecca had acted out of fear, not malice. Emma had been a reminder of the power that kindness held, something that Rebecca had long since forgotten. In quiet moments, Emma reflected on her journey. She had gained strength in unexpected ways. The woman who had once feared rocking the boat was now standing tall, knowing that her actions, however costly, had mattered. She realized that standing up for the right thing didn't always come with applause or immediate rewards. Sometimes, it meant walking away from the familiar and embracing the unknown. It was a sacrifice, no doubt, but one she would make again without hesitation. The emotional cost of her decision weighed on her, though. She had lost her job, her security, and her place within the community she had known her entire life. But as the days passed, Emma understood that what she had gained was far more valuable. Her actions had opened doors to new possibilities, to people who appreciated her for who she truly was, not just for what she could offer in a salon chair. As Emma found her place in the community again, the ripple effect of her actions spread. People began to understand the true meaning of kindness and the courage required to do the right thing, even when it's difficult. Emma had unknowingly set the stage for change, not just in her own life, but in the lives of those around her. In the end, Emma found peace. The world around her didn't change overnight, but she had come to understand that the most meaningful changes often happen slowly, over time, and often in ways that can't be predicted.